As Noam Chomsky has rightly pointed out, the two biggest threats facing our planet Earth, are the threat of nuclear war and climate change. So what can we do about those two things? Well, let's start with the nuclear war aspect. And the Democrats, the Democratic establishment, are pushing Trump further and further right on the Russia issue, which is a bad thing. We don't want to make any more enemies than we have to, especially with nuclear armed countries and their rhetoric about, Trump being a puppet of Vladimir Putin, and those things only pushes him further and further towards some type of confrontation with Russia, even though all of his policies and everything have shown that he is not acting in the interest of Russia. So that's one thing, as well as, obviously getting rid of our nuclear weapons and asking that other countries join us in that process, and agreeing to not proliferate any more nuclear weapons, given that they can lead to the destruction of the planet as we know it. So that's one. And then, yes, so stopping us from making any more nuclear weapons or even nuclear power, and then working with other countries to make sure they do the same. And then the second point, as far as climate change goes, that's obviously another huge issue and something that, affects us and the ecosystem in so many different ways, from, increased droughts to wildfires to more intense hurricanes and tropical storms to rising sea levels. And obviously these type of impacts have more of a consequence to the people who haven't caused these problems, people in these third world countries who are experiencing, for the most part, the brunt of these effects. So what can we do to combat climate change? Lessening the amount of animal products that we consume is a big one. If you're not willing to go all the way plant-based or vegan, then just lessening the amount of animal products that you consume can make a difference, because it takes an intense amount of energy and resources to produce those animal products. From a caloric density standpoint, it's much more efficient to grow legumes or grains or fruit, things of that nature, as compared to getting that same amount of nutrition from animal products. It requires a lot more resources, as well as just the environmental impact from them, the methane that's released, all of the waste that pollutes our waterways, acidifies our oceans, as well as just polluting the environment in general, and the health of the people that have to work with those animals, as well as kill them. But kind of different point. So reducing the amount of animal products that we consume, I think, is a really great place to start, as well as growing your own food, planting fruit trees, planting raised beds, planting annuals, foraging, for fruit when it's in season, where you are foraging for medicinals, things of that nature. And then trying to drive less, or trying to use maybe public transit more often, trying to commute by bike, buying less, consuming less things, reusing things, instead of buying something new, maybe buying it from a thrift store. What are some other ways that we can combat climate change? think those are honestly the big ones that come to mind. Reducing the amount of animal products that we consume if we're not, like I said, willing to go fully plant-based or vegan. Growing your own food. There's a lot of ways you can do that. If you don't have land yourself, you can get involved with a community garden program. You can grow things in pots on your balcony and your yard. You can find somebody, either a friend, a relative, or just a stranger who has some land that's not in use, and hey, can I plant a couple of fruit trees or raise bed here? I will build it. I'll pay for the materials. I'll even give you some of the produce from that. I just need that space. There's a lot of ways to do it. It's so rewarding, and it really gets you connected back to the natural world, which is really good. And like I said, just reducing our consumption, driving less, using public transit, as well as also if you're into the whole political sphere, if you're thinking change can come about that way, which I think it can to a certain extent, but honestly, we need to be making these changes on a personal level, because really the only thing we can change is ourselves. So just leading by example. But if you're into the whole political thing, which is fine, I am to a certain extent too, advocating and only supporting politicians, lawmakers who support these types of policies and measures, because if we don't, what was it, the International Panel on Climate Change gave us basically 12 years to basically totally reverse how we're living and how we're treating this planet and this these ecosystems that we are a part of. If we don't totally reverse how we've been acting, then the damage becomes irreversible. So it's very important that we take these steps, and that we take these big steps as soon as we can. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on these two just massively important issues, the issues of nuclear arms as well as climate change. So remember to be kind to each other, the animals, the planet, and ourselves. Peace!